Seomra Beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture. Sure Look, Sure Listen.
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 Sure look, sure listen. Very good, Ben. You put a little bit of extra sauce on that every week, and I have to say I love it. Benjamin, sure look it. We've got an absolute crap load of things to look at this week. For example, there are two brand new trailers. Marvel's What If, Ben, which begs the question, Ben, what if? And also The Witcher Season 2, which begs the question, also, what if there was a Witcher Season 2? Then, Benjamin, we've seen Black Widow, and we're going to review it with a delicious amount of spoilery spy spoilers. And Loki episode 5 was on, Benjamin, and it was absolutely chock-a-block with references and hints and throwbacks, and we'll probably spend too long talking about it to the point of boringness.
Sure, listen, Michael, if you don't pass away from boredom after listening to us talk about it for so long, you can then listen to us talk about Superman, the original 1978 movie and subsequent sequel in 1980, because, unfortunately, this week, Michael, Richard Donner passed away.
Legend of cinema, Richard Donner, Ben.
Yeah, legend of cinema, Richard Donner passed away. So, R.I.P. to him. Great episode start. Let's go.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Before we move on with anything this week on the Sure Look, Sure Listen, the pop culture podcast, the podcast that takes a pop of culture, yes. Did you do your due diligence and look into the life of Richard Donner to make sure he wasn't a bad egg before we do this episode?
No, I didn't do that, Michael.
I had a little look, Ben, and I can't find anything bad. People seem to like him.
That'd be a first, wouldn't it?
It would. So, fingers crossed we're not looking back on this in 5 years and going, oh no.
Oh,
I wish we hadn't done that.
Hell. We probably should have waited for them to read the will.
Yeah. That's why we had the Harvey Weinstein episode.
Had to erase a lot of that stuff. Yeah. It wasn't Harvey Weinstein great for cinema.
He was one of the best. Him and Ike Perlmutter, two of the best lads.
It's a grand bunch of lads.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
But look, unlike us, who can go back and erase our mistakes in time, sometimes...
No, we can't.
Well, we can just delete the episodes. Sometimes, Benjamin, you ask yourself, what if? That's one of the worst segues I've ever done. Ben, there was a trailer for the new series, What If, and it's quite good.
Michael, the What If series is actually exciting me beyond reason. They used to be so much fun as comics, because I remember back in the day, Michael, LimeWire. Do you remember LimeWire?
No, Benjamin, I've never engaged in any act of piracy.
Well, I did when I was about, I'd say it was about 13, 14, 15, maybe.
Benjamin, I tell a lie. I briefly served aboard a ship on the Horn of Africa, but that was the different type of piracy.
Back in the old days when you used to wear an eye patch for no reason, then surprise people by going, I've got them both.
I've got two eyes, I'm a messer.
I'm a messer. Which actually wasn't uncommon for pirates, if you believe the apocryphal myth that they used it to go below deck, Michael.
Oh yeah. For keeping the old sun out of the eye.
Yeah, so you'd have an old dark vision eye at all times. Anyway, none of that relevant.
What are we talking about?
Back in the LimeWire days, Michael, when you wanted to give your computer just the worst viruses known to man, you could go and have a look at stuff, and I discovered LimeWire. And if you typed in Marvel Comics and you wanted to get yourself a comic book, a lot of the titles that were available to you were what ifs, Michael, from way back in the 70s or 80s.
What if,
and
Ben?
They were great crack.
What if you gave your computer chlamydia?
Yeah, well, there was no what if there, Michael. We found out just what was
Very good.
in the case of my poor computer. But yeah, so we got the trailer for What's If. This is our second trailer seeing that. A little bit more in depth, Michael. Some more nuggets sprinkled on top there for us to num. Some pretty interesting stuff.
Benjamin, sexual health is very important, and if any of our listeners think they might have chlamydia or any other STI, they should contact their GP.
We've included the link to the HSE website.
No, we haven't. I'm not doing that. That's gone too far for a joke. That's gone too far.
No, it isn't.
Oh, no.
Check the link in the bio to the HSE.
That's great.
So anyway, Michael, what did you think of the trailer?
Benjamin, I thought it was quite good. For one thing, I have to say probably my favourite thing about it is at no point does it say Chadwick Boseman in his last performance.
Yeah, that was a real risk, wasn't it?
I love it. I love the restraint of that.
Yeah, it was good. I don't know. We still might see it in trailer 3, Michael.
There's always a chance, Ben. There's always a chance. But
do you know what? I feel like Kevin Feige, and again, I'm putting myself at risk here because could be in 5 years' time we find out Kevin Feige's the worst. But I feel like he's one of the good ones. I feel like Kevin Feige's an alright guy. Now, I've just tempted the universe in a serious way there. But I feel like he's got a bit of restraint about him.
Oh, God.
Occasionally.
I don't know why you've said that.
I don't know why I've said that. I've ruined my broadcasting reputation. But yeah, so one of the things that I'm really excited about is the animation style. It looks very slick.
It looks a lot more consistent than I thought it was going to be when they announced it. I thought it was going to be quite like The Matrix Reloaded or whatever that was called. The Animatrix. Do you remember The Animatrix, Ben?
Oh, The Animatrix was mental.
Or I thought it was going to be like Love and Robots where every episode was different. But it looks like it's very consistent.
Yes, it's a what-if style of animation.
They've got the same team of animators to do every episode by the looks of things.
Which is nice for a consistency basis.
It is, but also not that exciting from an artistic basis.
Perhaps a missed opportunity, you think, Michael?
Who wouldn't have loved if the 50s Captain America one was in the Fleischer style?
That would have been great. Oh, now you're... Oh,
you know what I
Michael,
mean?
What if?
Who wouldn't have loved, Ben, if the Guardians of the Galaxy, but this time it's Black Panther, was in the Masters of the Universe 80s cartoon shonky animated style?
Oh, Michael, no.
You know what I'm saying?
What if?
A little bit of a missed opportunity here. A little bit of a what if you know, that's where I was going, but you jumped the gun and ruined it on me. But, yeah, look,
you decided to enter the dojo with a podcasting co-host who's relatively good at picking up on cues.
Don't like it.
If you don't want me to take the joke, don't set them up.
No, all right. Well, I won't do any more jokes.
No more
jokes.
Welcome to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that's done away with jokes.
Yeah. Benjamin, look at Killmonger there saving Tony Stark.
What's that about, Michael? What's that about?
I don't know what if that's going to be.
Like, does Killmonger suddenly have superpowers?
No, I don't think he did.
Because what he does, Michael, is he picks up a rocket and he chucks it far enough away that it's not an issue.
You reckon he has super soldier serum?
He must have something, because you don't just... Hang on, Michael. You don't just go wandering around and going, oh, what's this? An ill-timed rocket?
Well, you might do, Ben. Ben, do you know our friend Jim, our mutual friend Jim?
Yes, Jim. Mutual friend Jim.
Mutual friend Jim. He has an arm. He's not the biggest man in the world, Ben, but he has an arm on him like an absolute cannon. And if he picked up an aerodynamic rocket and threw it, you wouldn't even see it. It would go so far.
Jim's chock full of surprises.
He's chock full of surprises, Ben. Don't let him throw something at you. He'll take your head off.
He's got a cannon arm.
He's got an arm on him like a cannon. It's absolutely, it's spectacular to see.
And did he save Tony Stark?
No, that was Killmonger, Eric Killmonger.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was confusing with Jim, mutual friend.
Mutual friend Jim. No, he's not in it. I don't believe he's in it. Benjamin, anyway, look, I think it looks quite good. I'm excited for it. I like that I do like the fact that it looks like it's going for basically this is in-universe style. And it's not just what if Tony Stark had never been born. It is one... do you know our mutual friend, Ben, Nando V Movies?
Yes.
Where he makes one...
not our friend.
No, we've never met him. But you know where he makes videos where he does one small change?
Yeah.
It's basically that, but in film.
His one small change series, ladies and gentlemen, is phenomenal.
Very good.
That man should be hired as a script doctor on every Marvel
one of the
movie
best.
ever.
One of the best. Benjamin, hindsight is 2020. It's very easy to go back and make one small change in a film that's already been made. As Richard Lester showed us, Ben, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that bloody later. So, Michael, one of my favourite things about it is there's now a theory that it's going to be a direct result of the Loki television series.
Makes sense.
So we're going to get that spiralling multiversal reimagining. Perhaps, well, I won't get into it now, Michael, but I actually am going to get into it. I reckon.
Go on.
And spoilers if you haven't seen Loki. We're not jumping into Loki yet, but I reckon maybe Loki and Sylvie are going to find themselves a watcher.
Oh.
In prison somewhere.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
What do you think of that? But Michael, we're not here to talk about that just yet. Just yet. What we're going to do now is we got a bloody trailer yesterday, Michael, as of today's recording, yesterday on a Sator day.
Yes.
We got the trailer for The Witcher Season 2.
Yes, the day named in honour of the day Thor sat down, I believe.
Yes, Sator.
Yes,
day.
very good. Benjamin, The Witcher Season 2 starring our mutual friend and acquaintance Henry Cavill.
Yeah, our best pal.
Our best pal, Henry Cavill. We play World of Warcraft together and paint miniature figures.
And spend time on Reddit.
We're best pals. We have a little wrestle. I have a little wrestle with Henry Cavill.
He kicked your ass.
He wouldn't have a chance.
He's a mountain of a man,
Wouldn't have a
Michael.
chance, Ben. Look, one of these days, Ben.
Mountain of a man.
One of these days, we're going to settle this. We're going to settle this, and you're going to understand. But
he's a mountain of a man.
That is currently irrelevant, Benjamin, because The Witcher Season 2 is coming, and Ciri looks different.
Ciri looks different. And I actually had to check, Michael. I didn't know if they'd recast her. I was like,
They've aged her up a bit, Ben.
Here? They've aged her up a bit, Michael. They gave her some eyebrows.
Yeah, they made her a young adult instead of a child.
And it's interesting because it looks to be more aligned to the video game version of Ciri. And what's interesting about that, Michael, is that they said they weren't going to do that. They said they were based completely on Le Books.
Oh, do you need me to beat Henry Cavill up to get revenge, Ben?
No, I don't need. No.
Okay, I won't. Then.
No.
I won't beat
There's
up.
no need for.
I won't beat up our mutual friend Henry Cavill.
Michael, let's be very, very clear here.
Yeah.
If you went up against Henry Cavill,
Yes.
he'd kick your ass.
All right, Benjamin.
Let's be.
We all. Look, this is going to result in you getting Henry Cavill beaten up. How are you going to feel about that? How are you going to feel about being the person responsible?
I feel worse if I end up getting you beat up by the
fine.
mountain of a man that's Henry Cavill.
Ben, talk about The Witcher Season 2. Stop winding me up on purpose. Stop pushing my buttons. I don't like having my buttons
He's built like a barn door.
Oh, well, I'm gonna beat you up. You're lucky this is a distance podcast now.
That's not a victory. Beating me up is the bar on the ground.
It's not a victory, Ben. It's a salve. It's a bomb.
A Benjamin bomb. Okay, so one of the major differences that made fans do a double take is the fact that Ciri has been aged up considerably, Michael. She's a lot rough and tougher.
She's gonna have to be a bit sexy by season 3, Ben. So it's probably for the best.
Oh, boo!
Isn't she an adult in the video games?
She's still like a ward. She's
A young adult.
She's played. It's that classic kind of Riverdale trope now where it's like, oh, I'm a teenager, but I'm actually a 32-year-old woman. Look at me in my skirt, which is ridiculous. And they do that. And number one, Michael, it creates woefully unrealistic expectations for young people. Boo. And second of all, it's that weird thing where lechery creeps in there, and you're like, why'd you do that? There's no need. Just have a female teenage character, and maybe don't shoot her exploitively.
But wasn't she played by an adult in the first place? Isn't that, Ben? I don't think we're going to win the battle against Hollywood casting women as children.
Probably not.
But Benjamin, this week I've been watching a series on Netflix, which we'll get back to next week. I've been watching the new horror anthology movie series Fear Street. Have you heard of it or seen it?
I've heard of it. I've seen little snippets of the first one.
And Fear Street, it's very good, Ben, but we'll talk about it next week because it's a very interesting concept. But Fear Street has 28-year-old actors playing the role of 17-year-olds.
It's a classic.
Classic, Ben.
It's a classic. And it's weird.
Yeah. Anyway,
they probably do need it to be a bit older. They probably do need it to be a bit tougher for the stunt roles that are coming. It looks like, Michael.
Yes.
It looks like we're going to get some faithful book retellings.
Oh.
We see one scene where there's a bat-like creature flying around Henry Cavill, and we see another scene where there's a bear-like man in clothing.
Oh.
And that's from one of the fan-beloved mini-stories, or short stories as they're commonly called.
Man-Bear.
Of Man-Bear and Vampire Lady are in love, and then
good.
The Witcher ruins it.
Oh, what a prick.
So it's in the first
Someone should beat him up,
novelization. The Last Wish. Someone should beat him up. If only we knew a big, strong, strapping man who could do it. If only. But we don't. Neither of us know someone who could do that.
A salve, Ben. A salve on my ego it will be.
So, looks like we're going to be getting that. It looks like we're moving into the series going to be a Witcher territory of the show.
Yeah.
They go back to the keep where we kind of have a, oh, you son of a bitch, you're back moment.
Jeff Winger, you son of a bitch, you made it.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a little bit of that going on. Very Game of Thrones aesthetics. Lots of snow, Michael.
Yeah.
Lots of keeps.
Very the Night Watch.
Very the Night Watch. Only with Witchers. And aside from that, Michael, we don't get a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
Find out No, we find out that Tris is gone. They've just removed her character because she's not a major character, so it's like we won't put Tris in the trailer. But we do get a little glimpse of Yennefer
Just
there
a
at the end of
tiny
the trailer.
little glimpsy whimsy, though.
Yeah, she's been kidnapped, Michael, by the looks of things, by the evil Lady Witch from season 1. Am I as excited as I thought it would be based on that trailer? No,
me neither.
I was just like, I haven't gotten much out of that trailer. I've just been like, okay.
It's basically, hey guys, season 2's coming. What do you think of that? And we're like, oh yeah, probably watch it.
I mean, give me a bit more? No. Okay.
Good.
Okay, well then.
Good, Ben. Because I have to say, that leads nicely into our next segment.
It does.
Benjamin, you and I have seen the new Marvel film from 2019, Black Widow.
We have seen it, Michael, and we saw it, Michael.
We did see it, Ben. Ben,
before anybody else saw it, because
put in your little famous spoiler break first.
Well, no.
All we're going to do is no spoilers for the beginning.
There's no need for this, because everybody has seen the entire movie in the trailer.
Very good, Ben. I see what you've done. There's no need for us to discuss spoilers, because you've already seen the damn thing. Benjamin,
you've seen the film.
You've seen it all. You've seen every last bloomin' second of it. Now, Benjamin, you might argue that usually Marvel are quite good at this.
Leaking.
No, not leaking.
Oh, okay. But you see, this is what happens, Michael, when you have to put out a movie that you don't really care about anymore because you've moved into phase 4 of your cinematic universe and you're really focused on ploughing forward with brand new characters, plot lines, and converging everything together.
I disagree there, actually. I think this is what happens when you have to try and keep the hype up for a movie for 18 months.
Well, that too.
And it's like, what will we release this week? We have to show them something new. What can we show them? Show them Taskmaster doing a flip. And we've already shown all of Taskmaster's flips. Do you want us to go back
and new flip?
Do you want us to go back and film a new flip? And no, just flip the footage and have Taskmaster flip the other direction. You mean left to right? No, backwards. A backwards flip. Like, oh fucking hell! There's no more footage to show. Ben,
what about David Harbour being out of shape?
Nah. Stick that all in the trailers. Every last bit of it. Now, Benjamin, you might argue that this is our own faults. Or, as we would say in Dublin, it's yous our own faults. Okay. Because we've watched all of those behind the scenes and upcoming featurettes. But I haven't even done that anymore. I stopped watching them.
Me too.
Because
I still knew.
And I still, Ben, and there's documentary evidence of this because we record a weekly podcast on pop culture called Sure Look, Sure Listen, the pop culture podcast that pops. Well, lucky we have pop filters, isn't it?
Well, I think it's lucky that we have me do the introduction, to be honest.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Benjamin, over the last few weeks, I was hoping against hope that perhaps everything we'd seen in the trailers was from the first 20 minutes and we were in for a big twist. Not at all. Benjamin, do you remember Gardens of the Galaxy Volume 2? Do you remember that film?
Yes, where we looked at Groot and his extended family as they traverse through the universe as a prequel.
Gardens of the Galaxy. Benjamin, I remember almost not enjoying Gardens of the Galaxy Volume 2 because it was so unexpected and it went in so many places that I had no idea it was going to go because they only told us things from the first 20 minutes. Endgame, Ben, the first time we saw Endgame, we had to hold hands. It was such a roller coaster.
Michael, Endgame was the emotional experience of I had never gone to a cinema prior to Endgame and come out genuinely being like,
there's too much. There's too much here that you haven't prepared us for.
I wasn't ready.
They kept Smart Hulk secret, Ben.
Yeah, how?
They kept Fat Thor secret.
How?
They kept everything secret, but not in Black Widow, Benjamin.
Nope, they just gave everything. So we should probably, Michael, do full spoilers here.
All right. For all the difference
and we're doing for all the difference it makes. We're doing big, heavy spoilers. Listen away now, but do come back. Otherwise, it'll fuck our metric.
Yeah.
Do listen away and then come back if you haven't seen it yet. If you're interested in seeing it, stay away. Okay.
Although it makes no difference.
Although it makes
no difference whatsoever.
So, Michael, this is supposed to be Black Widow's swan song.
I always pronounce that Swansong.
Swan song. So this is supposed to be Black Widow's swan song.
Yes.
And unfortunately,
Yes.
I've never seen someone botch a swan song quite as well as they've botched this one.
Well, first of all, totally disagree with that. 80% of all Swansongs are botched.
That's fair.
I don't think this is a botch, to be honest. Okay, Ben, let's get it out of the way first. I think this is fine to...
I mean, that's the best way to describe it. It's, do you know what it is?
Go on.
And this is going to get me in trouble right off the bat.
Go on.
It's far better than Captain Marvel. We should have gotten that before Captain Marvel.
I would say it's marginally better than Captain Marvel. I would say it's... If Black Panther, Ben, didn't have the wide-reaching social and political ramifications that it did...
Yes.
It's... So strip away the fact that, you know, it was the first ever... it wasn't the first ever black-led superhero movie, but let's imagine that all of those social-political things around Black Panther didn't exist.
Yes.
This is nearly as good as Black Panther would be if all the characters were white. You know, it's on that level, you know.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's a fairly boilerplate plot. It's has highs and lows in acting and delivery.
Does it?
All right,
in acting and delivery.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
And
absolutely.
you know, in
I thought
action
you meant
sequences,
in stakes.
Stakes, complete and utter waste of time.
Yeah.
It's my biggest issue with it, Ben. Here's my biggest issue with this okay film that has good points, is that it doesn't have a tone.
So this is my great gripe with this. The first 10 minutes of that film, Michael, blow the rest of the film out of the water.
Yes, the first 10 minutes are very good, although desperately needed to be set in the 60s, not the 90s.
What was that about? What was that about?
Classic Russian spies in America in the 90s. It was the TV show The Americans, Ben, but in the 90s.
But in the wrong
time. In the
time.
era of Ally McBeal.
So one of my favorite things about this is we get a very, very interesting lead-in to a Marvel film. Shot very stylistically, tonally very strong, some very interesting implications for what was going on between America and Russia at the time. Mm-hmm. There's that very kind of harrowing scene of child trafficking and stuff there. A lot of really strong tones there, a lot of really interesting things. Really believe that Natasha might have had some serious proper like trauma boiling down there under the boil plate, and then they just throw all that out.
Yeah, forget about it, don't worry about it, it's fine.
They throw all that out. They have this amazing scene where all the family kind of land on a boat and they have to meet Russian handler Ray Winstone, which we'll get to in a bloody minute. And, you know, we actually believe they were a family for half a second. We actually believe all the things that we were led to believe. And then they just throw all that out because we want a few snarky quips from mum and dad.
I know, it's bonkers. Also, the mother and father character get a complete rewrite.
They just change. Because you can make this out. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I'm sorry, I'm going to get really animated here because this is the most bizarre moment of the film.
Go on.
There's a moment in that opening scene where Rachel Weisz's character comes up, David Harbour's character calls her over, they have a quiet, tense parent discussion, and she says, "Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't say now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say it has to be." And he's like, "Yes, I'm sorry." And that's off screen from the kids. That's not for their benefit. They're not being watched by the United States Police Force at
they
that
have
moment.
Perfect American accents.
They have perfect American accents, and all of a sudden, the next time we see them, they're caricatures.
Yeah, she's a stiff, kind of emotionless weirdo, and he's a buffoon.
Russian scientist lady, and he's a buffoon.
He's an absolute buffoon with comedy Russian accent, not quite as good as we do last week.
And it's such a shift tonally.
Oh, bonkers.
And then you have Florence Pugh, who throws it all off by giving a genuinely relatively decent performance.
Well, first of all, Ben, I actually think Weisz and Rachel Weisz is underutilized for sure.
For sure. She's in it for...
She's
weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a shame. It's a shame they don't use Rachel Weisz more. I think David Harbour is very good at both things they give him to do, which is
being a buffoon.
one being a buffoon and the other one being a kind of disgruntled Russian spy dad.
And he was pretty good.
They don't
He's a scene
sync up.
stealer.
They don't sync up. But
No.
I mean, it's devastating how little they give Red Guardian to do. He doesn't even get a fight scene.
No, he just gets the shit kicked out of him by Taskmaster.
But I mean, every moment of that fight with Taskmaster and Red Guardian is in the trailers.
We saw the whole thing.
We saw the whole thing. I thought we were going to see that fight, and then it cuts away to what's Florence Pugh doing or what's Natasha doing, and you don't even see the fight.
So one of the great tragedies there, Michael, is I thought there was a really great potential moment in that for Red Guardian to have his redemption.
Yeah, or die.
Or die. But that's what I mean. That redemption would have come in the fact that Natasha and Yelena had to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to do that is he could stand between them and Taskmaster. And we could have had an amazing scene where we see that, you know, Red Guardian actually did go toe-to-toe with Captain America at some point. He could have caught the Taskmaster shield. He could have, you know, given it his all to beat. And in the end, he might have been beaten by superior strategy. But we could have seen Red Guardian in all his kind of Soviet glory. And we never got that scene, Michael.
Nothing. Ben, there are action figures of David Harbour younger and in shape and in the full uniform. And I thought we might get a flashback or something, but no.
Nope.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
I tell you what, right? This film it's directed by a woman. It's aimed at women, I would say. All of the men in this film, Ben, are either unrepentantly evil or incompetent buffoons.
Those are your two choices.
And I was like watching it, Ben, and I was thinking, is this what women were complaining about for all those years? Because I've had a taste of it and I don't like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's what women do deal with.
I guess. I mean, that's not great, is it?
Buffoons are misogynists.
Well, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, okay, the big complaint about female characters for a generation has been they're either background characters or sex objects.
Okay. You've taken the men being misrepresented on screen.
So, well, it's not that men are being misrepresented on screen, but women were for a generation or two or three, probably since the start of history, the start of film history, depicted as damsels in distress, background characters, or sex objects.
Or sex objects.
And now
those
this
are the
film
choices.
gives us a taste of our own medicine by having the men either be faceless grunts, comically evil, but still incompetent, or utterly buffoons. There isn't one strong male character in this film, which is interesting. I've had a taste of our own medicine, Ben, and I don't like it, is what I'm saying.
I'm not a fan. So that brings us to Ray Winston, I suppose.
Oh, does it though? Can we not just say, Ben, Ray Winston had no business in this film and move on?
I mean, I think that's fair. Can't do a Russian accent. Sounds English half the time.
Why is he even doing a Russian accent? I don't get the Russian accent thing. They all have flawless American accents when they're in the USA.
Because they've been trained to, but they've also been trained to within an inch of their lives, to speak perfect English.
To be spies.
Why are they speaking in English?
Why are they speaking English? The one excuse they had for it, Ben, was this was a family unit whose history was in Ohio. So when they meet up, they default back to English out of habit.
Yeah, sure.
Perfectly
but they would have had American accents.
Yes, but not. Well, Natasha, drink your vodka and stop slouching. Oh, for fuck's sake.
But that doesn't explain Ray Winston.
No.
Why is Ray Winston in this film?
Get rid of him. Get rid of him. He plays the character of misogyny.
But he doesn't even play it well,
No,
Michael.
he doesn't
just
even
seems
play it
like
well.
an out-of-shape old man.
Yeah, well, that's misogyny, Ben. That's what misogyny would look like.
Oh, okay,
And then
fair
misogyny punches Black Widow in the face, but not hard enough. It's, yeah.
As he's weak.
Oh, the male character's a crap, Ben. But
Ray Winston's awful.
One of the worst. But there are highlights, and it's not a terrible film. For one, Pug is fantastic.
She's phenomenal. She's... do you know what? I felt really, really bad for Scarlett Johansson.
Go on.
Because she can't hold her own charisma-wise with Florence Pugh. I don't think. personally.
I disagree, but that's the point of a podcast.
Florence Pugh, I suppose. Florence Pugh gets these great liners where she just gets to she's a perfect younger sibling a lot of the time as well. Like where she makes fun of Natasha's kind of superhero landings and the hair flicks and stuff. Like that's perfect younger sibling. Like who do you think you are?
Yeah. What are you doing, you big dumbass?
Bill Needland, you big dumbass. And I just think she steals a lot of the scenes that she's in. I think it's really interesting. The dinner table scene.
Yes.
Where they all sit around the table. Scarlett Johansson kind of fades into the background of that scene because they put all these loud voices and big characters around her. And because Black Widow has been handled by so many different writers, we've never gotten a true line on who Natasha Romanoff is.
Exactly, but hashtag who even is Natasha Romanoff?
Hashtag, yeah, exactly. And
is she a sex pot? Is she a femme fatale? Is she a secret leader of the Avengers? Is she a broken
super
woman?
Spy?
Is she? What is she?
What is she?
She's whatever you want her to be.
And then what we get is 3 very distinct characters. We get the spy who never got to come in from the cold in Florence Pugh. We get stereotypically, Russian scientist lady. And we get stereotypically Soviet golden age man.
/ buffoon.
Say what you want about those characters, Michael, but fundamentally we understand who they are. And yet we've never gotten that with Natasha Romanoff.
Who is
We're
Black
still
Widow?
there going, I don't get, what's your place in this? Why has she got blue hair in the flashback? Why is she a little girl with dyed blue hair?
She's edgy, Ben. She's always been an individualist.
Get out of here. She's never been an individualist. She spent her entire life blending in with other people.
Benjamin.
Get out of town.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Pug is great, though. And all credit
Pug
to
is
her.
great.
Pug is fantastic. I will be
She's phenomenal.
very happy for her to carry the torch. One of the most interesting things, Ben, is the post-credits scene.
Oh.
So this is set, Ben. This film is set. This is such a nitpick, and this is for nerds only. So if you're not a nerd, what are you listening for, Ben?
Yeah. Just keep listening. It's great for us.
Yeah, please do. This movie is set in 2017.
Yes.
And
in between
directly after Civil War, like the next day after Civil War.
And Infinity War.
Yeah. So
a lot of wars.
So many. And Benjamin, that was 2017. So this is set in 2017.
Yes.
Then there's the Infinities War.
Yes.
And is it 4 or 5 years that pass after the snap?
I think it's 5, isn't it? The snap is a 5-year gap.
I thought it was 4, but it might be 5. And then it's been probably close to a year since everyone got returned in the current timeline. So between the last time we see Pug getting onto the Soviet helicarrier's jet thing and when we see her with Contessa Allegra de Fontaine, about 9 years have passed.
Give or take.
Yeah, that's a bit mad.
It's a jump.
That's a massive time jump for Pug to look exactly the same.
Unless Pug got snapped.
Oh, well then it's only 4.
Then it's only 4, in which case she's been working for Contessa Allegra, which would make sense because the Contessa has only been building her Thunderbolts since the return of the blip, I think.
Return of the blip.
I mean, we'll not really explain that, but what I would imagine is, in the face of this new world chaos, the Contessa Allegra has decided that she needs to bring order in whatever way she can.
Ben, I like the dinner tape, the meeting in a pit stop garage dining table where they just kind of casually agree to go and murder a load of people because it sounds like fun.
So one of the really interesting things there, Michael, is there's an entire Serbian prison that gets wiped out to save David Harbour.
Who could have broken out at any time of his own accord.
I've been thinking about this since I've watched the film. Florence Pugh causes an avalanche that kills all those men.
Yeah, and the guards. And the guards.
And nobody bats an eyelid.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we killed all those fellas. Is that bad? It's like, they were presumably baddies.
And then Red Guardian screams out, goodbye, douchebags. Hang on a minute, it's a Serbian cold prison. There's loads of political prisoners in there. Yeah. Loads of dissenters. And loads of individual people that don't deserve to be there.
And they seem to have been your friends, majorly. Like, you're having arm wrestle turns with them.
What the fuck?
Yeah, very odd. Very strange.
It's a very
and very
strange
peculiar
scene. I am seriously considering doing a TikTok channel for this very podcast, Michael, and being my first TikTok being a piss take of that particular scene.
They killed everyone.
It's so messed up.
They killed everyone for no reason. And Ben, why was he even in there?
Because he was a political, I don't know, he locked him up. It's never explained why. He just says, and then he locked me up. Why?
Ben, I have one last question about this film, and then we have to move on because we're running short on time.
Because we're running short on time.
Why, Ben, if the Soviets created one successful super soldier, I nearly did it in the Soviet accent. Super soldier. If they created one and only one successful super soldier, why did they send him undercover in America?
Great question, isn't it?
Like
Great question.
If he was the poster boy for Soviet super soldiers, okay, I can forgive that we haven't heard of him before. You know, you have to forgive that in sprawling multi-film epics.
Well, he's buried.
Is he, though? We should have heard of him, because Hulk was created trying to recreate the Captain America formula, the Six Winter Soldier. We should have heard of this guy, that the Russians had a super soldier running around. Someone should have mentioned it. I can forgive that, because that's the nature of long-form narratives. You have to sometimes make something up and pretend it was there all along. But it doesn't make sense to have your only super soldier being an undercover dad in America.
No, doesn't make any sense to have that.
No reason for it to be that way anyway. They could have just had him be... That was before he was a super soldier.
Oh, yeah. And then after he's taken back into the fold...
Then they make him a super soldier.
Yeah.
You know? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to have someone who can flip a multi-ton dumpster with one hand.
Doesn't no bother.
No bother whatsoever. Almost accidentally he does it.
Yeah.
And then... Yeah. Ben, sorry, one last complaint. Everything from Taskmaster is in the trailer. Everything. Everything. Last moment except the face reveal, which is uneventful.
Michael, speaking of timing and weird, confusing characters that we've never heard of, did you see this week's episode of Loki?
Benjamin, I saw it and then I saw it again because I was like, there's too many references. I have to go back and watch it, but in slow.
I need a bloody double watch.
I hate having the double watch.
I hate having to double watch. Michael, yes. The fuckery.
What's going on now, Ben? What is going on now?
What's going on? So, we finally... Michael, first of all, Richard E. Grant. Yes, please.
Yes, one of the most Richard E. Grants there is.
Steals that entire episode. I'm sorry. From start to finish, all I cared about was, what's Richard E. Grant's Loki going to do next?
I cared about Richard E. Grant and the alligator. They were my two favourite characters.
Those are my two favourite characters. Michael, this show it's so hard to do a recap of this show because the plot isn't actually the important part.
No.
A lot of the time.
No, they fought the monster and they found the boss.
They fought the monster and they found the boss, right? But it's everything that gets peppered in on top of that stuff.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
I said to you that this series... I said before, and I'm changing what I said before, because it's actually... This show is a love letter to two things.
Okay.
It's a love letter to the history of Marvel Comics.
Yep.
And the myths and urban legends of the 20th century.
Nice.
It's those two things condensed into show.
Yeah.
Ben... You run us through the Marvel Comics references, nice and quick, nice and lickety fast, like Quicksilver or the Wizard.
So yeah, we got to see the Thanos copter, Michael, which is a
Thanos copter,
insane, an insane kind of throwback to the Silver Age of comics.
Benjamin, the Thanos copter is when Thanos fought Hellcat and lost and got arrested by the normal police.
Oh yeah, remember when you used to be able to just slap a couple of cuffs on Thanos, and then of course that stopped working, Michael, when he got the Infinity Gauntlet because the Infinity Gauntlet was too big for standard issue cuffs.
Can't get them over it.
And that was the main reason he wore. That was the original reason he wore the Infinity Gauntlet.
Because he kept getting arrested by normal cops.
That's the best joke. That's the most niche nerd joke we've ever made on this podcast.
No, Ben, we said no more jokes. Benjamin, there was also Throg and a Mjolnir.
Michael, did you know that Chris Hemsworth recorded brand new audio for Throg?
Get out of here. That was Chris Hemsworth going ribbit.
It's actually Chris Hemsworth throwing that, going, in the jar.
It's insanity.
It's madness.
That is absolute insanity.
It's brilliant. Not only did they go, well, we cut corners and do this, we're like, no, Fuck it, get Hemsworth into the recording booth. Get him in.
Absolute insanity. Then, of course,
brilliant,
the biggest homage to the Silver Age of comics, I suppose. I hereby, Ben, declare that we should rename the Silver Age of comics the Golden Age of Marvel comics.
Fair.
So the Silver Age of comics were Marvel's golden age. That's neither here nor there, Ben. But the real throwback is old Loki.
Old Loki, Michael. Now,
yes, go on.
do you remember when we first started getting comic books movies all the way back in X-Men, Michael?
Yes.
And we said,
Ben,
because you and I were producers at the time.
Ben.
Yeah.
That's in direct contradiction to what this week's topic is about.
What do you mean?
When we first started getting comic book movies in 1978 with Superman.
Oh, yeah, in 1978 with Superman. Excellent segue for later on in this very episode.
Yeah, thank you.
But when we first started getting the kind of Marvel comic book films in, well, I mean, again, the 70s. But okay, when we got the new wave of things,
new wave,
we got X-Men, right?
Mm.
And for some
You know who
reason they
produced that,
said... who produced that?
You know who produced that?
Go on.
Richard Donner.
Richard Donner, of course he did. So, Michael, one of the interesting things about that was we took a look at the costumes and went, no, we can't do yellow and blue. That'd be madness. That's too comic booky. And they said, let's just stick them in BDSM gear and see what happens. And so they went and they did that. But now, Michael, apparently we can go, oh, yeah, that costume's mental. Those poses are insane. That's a kind of dorky power set. Who wrote that dialogue? And we've gone, put it in the show.
Put it in.
Put
it in.
And they've
Put
gone,
it in.
Who can do this? What human could we get to embody this? And somebody knew and went, Richard E. Grant could do this.
I think the original conversation, Ben, went, what about Hugh Grant? And someone said, Hugh Grant? That's not a bad choice, but I don't know if he's Richard-y enough.
And then
they said, I think we need a more Richard E. Grant.
So, Michael, one of my favorite things that gives this a whole new layer for me, and this is a hot take, Michael. This is a hot take.
Hold on, I'm still laughing at my Richard E. Grant joke. All right, go on, do your hot take.
This is my hot take. This is genius on a number of levels, because one of my favorite reactions to Richard E. Grant is a lot of Americans going, who even is this guy? Mm-hmm. And everybody who's on these islands has seen Richard E. Grant in Strange Things. But one of the things that makes this brilliant is what made Richard Grant famous is a movie called Withnail and I, where he plays a very angry, very arrogant young actor. And if you watch his portrayal in Withnail and I, it's Loki.
Yeah. Sure.
Richard E. Grant's Withnail goes around all the time thinking that he's burdened with glorious purpose. He goes on about it as if he's God's gift to humanity. And if you look at the styling of Richard E. Grant, it's eerily similar in Withnail to what we get in Loki in the first Thor film, the second Thor film, and so on and so forth. Before they gave him natural hair, he had that weird slicked back black do. It's exactly out of Withnail. When we look at Richard E. Grant playing old Loki, he's Withnail grown up. He literally has the benefit of hindsight because he was that arrogant little shit. And then, of course, the added little layer, Michael, that we got, and the thing that has sent the fans wild is his ship was attacked by Thanos.
Yeah,
and that means that he's
our Loki. Yeah. His Nexus event was that he didn't try and sneaky stab Thanos. He just hid.
Yeah, he was just like, no, fuck that.
Bloody illusions.
Bloody illusions. And bloody interesting, Michael, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
I'll tell you who turned out to be not very interesting.
Go on.
The character called Boastful Thor.
God, what a waste.
What a waste, man. And, I mean, his name was obvious because he has one scene in which he boasts, and that's why he's called Boastful Thor. So it was so obvious he was a throwaway character. He was just there to be visually distinctive. Yeah,
so it was unfortunate. It made for a great post-credit scene. But one of the things I found quite disappointing was Kid Loki. I thought he was... actually quite poor. I don't think he did a very good job even of acting against people like Richard E. Grant or...
He was a bit, He didn't seem like he was the leader. Even President Loki, Ben, that big reveal that we were expecting was a bit of a one-pump chump.
Damn squib. So I suppose that leads us perfectly into the Loki fight scene, Michael, where Tom Hiddleston's Loki is kind of creeping around as if he's in a Monty Python scene going, whoa, doing his favourite, like, tiptoe bloody Mick Jagger impression, being like, oh, you can't touch me. Whoa. Bizarre scene, Michael. Like, just no need for it. No need for it. But I mean, it was fun, and we got to see old Loki show off that power set a little bit and have a bit of fun with that. And we got one of the greatest comedic beats in Marvel cinema history in Loki the alligator going nom on President Loki's hand. Him taking a moment to realize that his fucking hand was gone. And Tom Hiddleston having the most fun he has ever had in a Marvel scene.
Delicious. Benjamin.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, this whole series has been a love letter to 20th century urban myth. And you said to me, Mick, what do you mean? And I said, Ben, do you remember D.B. Cooper, the famous urban myth D.B. Cooper?
Yes.
That was Loki.
Yes.
Benjamin, have you ever heard of Polybius?
So I have a rough understanding of this, Michael, but I'd imagine you have more research done on this than I, so I'm going to let you take the lead.
Polybius is a video game, Ben, that apparently allegedly existed in the 80s as part of a government mind control experiment.
Classic government.
And thousands of people claim to remember playing it and having weird hallucinations and strange thoughts. But there is no evidence that it ever actually existed, Ben, and now we know why.
Because it was bloody time wiped.
It was pruned, Ben. It was pruned.
Pruned, yeah. So this, Michael, again, speaking of the Silver Age of comics, we got some bizarre throwbacks in there on top of Polybius. Alioth, the big Alioth, sorry, they call it Alioth. I've always called it Alioth, but they call it Alioth. I thought Alioth was a species of creature. They were like, it's a Alioth. I was Alioth sound like it's no good. No, his name is Alioth. It took me a second to look that up. That's a famous character from the TVA. It's a big gaseous temporal erasy beast.
Oh, I saw him. Yeah, he's a big dog thing.
But one of the really interesting things about that, Michael, is he's a prison guard. He's not a predator. He's a prison guard. He guards a prison cell and stops people from getting in, not people from getting out. He happens to snack on time variants if they pop up in his existence. But his purpose is not to stop anybody getting out of the weird closet dimension that they're stuck in. The purpose is keeping something in. And Michael, that gives us so many interesting possibilities for this bloody episode, because they just
in the
stopped.
bloody castle, Ben?
Who are we going to get?
Who's in there? Ben, before we go on to that, though, we have to talk about the ship that appears. Did you see the ship?
Oh yeah, this is another big thing, isn't it?
The ship is great, Ben. Benjamin, I had to contact your good friend and mine, Cron, from the Cron Craft Show.
What's up, Cron?
And I said, Cron, you're a man who knows things. And he said, yes, I am. I very much am. What would you like to know? I hope it's about World War II. And I said, Cron, I tell you what, it is about World War II. And he said, I suspected it would be.
Delicious.
And I said, what was that ship all about? And he said, have you ever heard of the USS Eldridge?
Go on.
And I said, Ben, what a great name, first of all.
Yes.
Ben, the USS Eldridge is the ship at the centre of the famous 20th century urban myth and legend, the Philadelphia Experiment.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, it's where they tried to make Tom Hanks the most lovable man in America.
Very clever. You're talking about the film Philadelphia, in which he dies of HIV/AIDS.
Oh.
No, Ben, it's not that. It's the Philadelphia Experiment, Ben, was an alleged World War II experiment in an effort to make an invisible ship.
Ooh.
And according to the urban legend, Ben, the ship was docked in the dockyards of Philadelphia. The real USS Eldridge was docked in the dockyards of Philadelphia, and they started the experiment to make it invisible, but not realizing that due to Einstein and time and gravity and or space, they'd actually created a bubble of chrono differentiation.
Oh no.
And they had teleported the ship to a different parallel universe, or a time slightly out of sync with our time. So It wasn't just invisible, Ben, it was time shifted.
Ooh.
And Ben, of course, in the real world, everyone denies that ever happened, and the facts don't line up. But now we know why, Ben.
Well, hang on, Michael. Does that imply that they weren't actually time erased and they just found themselves in that closet dimension by mistake?
Potentially, or potentially that their accidental time travelling caused them to be pruned by the TVA.
I mean, I like the other one, though, before that, where the TVA didn't do anything and they just found themselves in that...
Oopsie. Oopsie-daisy.
Oh, very enjoyable show, Michael. Looking forward to the final episode. I think it's going to be my top pick for Marvel TV shows. I think it's very good.
Yes.
A lot of people have been conjecturing, Michael, being like, how are they going to wrap this up? They're not.
Yeah.
They're not going to wrap this up. This is going to end on a big old cliffhanger.
It's not going to end up in a tight little bow, Ben. And I would also be prepared to be disappointed by the reveal.
It's Mephisto.
It's Mephisto. It's Loki. It has to be Loki. Ben, no show in the history of the world has ever benefited by introducing a grand villain in the final scene and going, "It's me!" And the audience going, "Who? Who's that?
Who? Sorry? What?
Who is that? Skeletor?"
It's Thor.
I hope it's Thor. I hope it's Skeletor.
It's an evil Thor.
Skeletor.
Skeletor.
A skeleton of Thor.
No, I think Kang has become the new Mephisto for this series, where it's like, oh, it's Kang! It's Kang!
It's definitely Kang. Benjamin,
yeah.
would you do us up some art, please, of Skeletor?
I will do you some arts
Ben,
for Skeletor.
it should be
I quite
Thor's
like that.
skeleton, but with Thor's winged helmet and Mjolnir.
I quite like that.
Yes,
I will make that.
You do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us on to a bit of bloody
finally.
what could have been, Michael. We're dealing with even more what could have been, and what we got, Michael, in the end. Because, unfortunately, this week, as we said, kind of legend of cinema, Richard Donner, passed away.
Dickie D, as we call him, Benjamin. Ben, he was 91. He had a good innings.
Yeah. Some good innings, Michael.
A very good innings, Ben. He was 91. He had a good innings. He doesn't appear to have done anything bad or noteworthy. So I think it's fair to say he had a good one.
If he did do something bad and it comes out later, we will prune this episode.
Oh, we will
from
prune
timeline.
the hell out of it. We will get our glowy sticks and this episode will disappear. But it appears that he's a good egg. Benjamin,
Yeah.
I would say the old Dickie D, the old Doner Kebab, he is up there with one Kevin Feige as probably the most important person in the history of the genre that which we love so much.
The architect of everything we've come to hold dear, Michael. Richard Donner is... that guy. First of all, previous to his Superman experience, so he directed and pretty much wrote the first Superman film in 1978. He was hugely influential on that script by the end, and got a good of the ways through his sequel.
It's a terribly interesting story, Ben, if you're familiar with it.
Go on.
It was one of the first ever studios signing off on doing a film and its sequel back to back.
Yeah.
Nowadays, very popular, mostly due to The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings proved that this was a thing that could be done after the failed experiment of Dickie D's Superman.
Yes.
So they planned to make Superman 1 and 2 back to back, Ben. And Dickie D had almost made Superman, but went massively over budget.
Oh, no.
Because they really wanted the flying and the superpowers to look brilliant.
And it looked good.
It looked pretty damn good, Ben, from 1978, years before even I was born.
Even you, Michael. And you're the oldest person on this podcast.
Exactly, Ben. So the unfortunate thing was, Ben, they went so over budget, they didn't have enough time or energy to write the ending to 1. So
Cursed budgets.
So they used the ending from 2, the original ending from 2, for 1. And said, just stick that ending in there. Everything's grand. Everything is fine.
Don't worry about it.
And Ben, then they only had about 25% of 2 filmed. Oh no, it was 40, about 40%.
It varies, Michael,
Yeah.
depending on who you ask.
And the producers basically said, no, 2 is too expensive now. We need to cut back on it somehow. We still want to make it, but we need to do all these cutbacks. And Dickie D basically couldn't come to an agreement with them. And said,
because he had a vision.
I have a vision for how I want this to go, and we're doing the 2 of them together. And the studio said, well, you're bloody out then. And he said, all right, well, I will be out. And they seem to have split on relatively good terms.
Or so we thought.
But then they got Dickie L in, Ben. Richard
Lester.
And he wanted to do more of a comedy film. So...
And... oh boy.
well, Superman 2 is not a bad film. Either version is not a bad film. They're just quite different. So they got Dickie L in, Ben.
Yeah.
And he filmed some of it.
Okay.
He filled in the gaps, basically.
He did.
And then they took that to the Directors Guild and said, there you go, this is a new film by Dickie L. And they said Dickie L hasn't filmed enough of this to count as a director.
That's not how this works.
And they went, but we've already made it. And they said, well, look, you're going to have to go back and have Dickie L refilm some of the shit you've already filmed to get qualified as a director. So they had to refilm the same scenes 2 years later.
Which is madness.
It's absolute bonkalacious, Ben.
Which is madness.
And the fact that they managed to get Superman, the most influential comic book film in the history of comic book films, and a decent Superman 2 out of it, and then also later a decent Superman 2, the Donner cut out of it, is a sheer miracle.
So I mean, that kind of success, Michael, wasn't replicated until years later then with bloody Infinity War and Endgame, where we got 2 sequels in the fucking space of who knows where we were.
It's a lot more common these days. The Matrix did it, Lord of the Rings did it, Infinity Wars does it. Zack Snyder almost certainly rolled straight into Justice League from Batman vs Superman, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot more. And look how that turned out.
Yeah, it's very rarely done well. So I think tonally it's such an interesting thing because I was watching it during the week, Michael, and I was also looking at some of the comics from 1978. They're not the same.
No, very different.
The Superman that we're getting is, I think, Richard Donner's childhood Superman. I think we're getting the Superman from when Richard Donner was a wee baby director. And I think we're getting the kind of early Fleischer Superman brought to the silver screen, and it's very interesting because it's kind of camp, it's kind of silly,
a little bit, yeah.
It's kind of silly. Marlon Brando, talk about a Ray Winston. I mean, just in there and just not suited to it.
Krypton Jor-El. Listen to me. I don't know why. This is the worst Brando I've ever heard.
I had a look. I think it's pretty solid. And I had a look around, Michael, and talk shows were so different then because I looked it up. And,
everyone was smoking fags.
One of the big things that happened is Marlon Brando was reading a script next to the baby.
Marlon Brando, Ben, is a legend of cinema for refusing to learn lines.
Yeah, and he's reading off a script next to it, and you can see it when you watch the fucking movie. Yeah. His eyes keep moving slightly over.
Does not give a shit.
And it's amazing. And then I watched another thing with Christopher Reeve being interviewed, and he was like, was he a professional on set? And Christopher Reeve just goes, no, he wasn't, no. And then the guy asks him another question. He says, was he was it a pleasure to work with a legend like Marlon Brando? And Christopher Reeve just out of nowhere goes, no, it was actually really unpleasant.
Yeah,
and
he's the worst.
I couldn't say that it was. And I was just like, the balls.
The absolute balls.
The balls.
They should get him to play Superman.
They should get him to play Superman.
The balls
and they did. So what we see at the end of Superman 1, Michael, is the lead into Superman 2, which is where we get to see Zod in the form of Terrence Stamp, and his 2 compatriots get blasted off into space like Team Rocket. And that leads us into 2. But come here to me, Michael,
Yes.
Michael, you've put yourself through the Donner cut.
So the Donner cut's a fascinating thing, Ben. It's the Donner cut is the nascent seed of the Snyder cut. This mad concept that someone made a film in 1978 and some internet lunatics are going to revive it in 2006 and make it into a decent film. And a decent film it is. And I would argue, arguably, a better film than the original Superman 2. There's still slapstick in it. It's still got that 70s pacing. So, for example, Ben, Superman only meets the villains in the Donner cut for the final confrontation.
Oh.
Basically, the villains villain about the place for the first hour while Superman is off messing about with Lois and giving up his powers and stuff. And then sees them on television, I think, and goes, oh, I should get my powers back so I can go and beat them up. And then
they're not great, are they?
They're not great. They seem like a bad bunch of lads. And goes and beats them up then. And then that wraps it all up very nicely. It's a weird 70s paced film, but it's an hour and 10 minutes or something into the film before the conflict of the film takes place.
Now, Michael, I have one question and one question only for you.
Go on.
Does he take the Superman symbol off his chest and chuck it lightly at one of the villains?
No, that is gone. That is gone.
No,
the famous cellophane S is gone. A lot of the Richard Lester wasn't a Superman fan, Ben.
Nobody on those movies were,
except Dickie D.
Except Dickie D. But none of those people, Michael, had any kind of great graw for superhero films.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
One of the oddest things about the Donner Cut, Ben, is that it has the ending from 1. It has the same ending because they're going from the original script. So it ends the same way as Superman 1 with him reversing time and fixing everything.
Get out of town.
It's very, very, very strange. Also,
get out of town.
Because of the nature of what it is, the first 10 minutes is a recap and reimagining of the ending of 1.
Fuck's sake.
Because 1 doesn't end. In this universe, 1 doesn't end.
So how does 1 end?
Well, it kind of doesn't really. Superman throws the nuclear bombs into space.
Oh, it's a classic.
And the nuclear bombs being thrown into space accidentally release the Kryptonians.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
And that causes them to crash land on the moon and for them to start to go on their sexy rampage.
Oh, that's a bit good, isn't it? Those tight-fitting, form-fitting 70s black suits.
A very sexy rampage. Very sexy.
Terrence Stamp, great Zod.
Very good Zod, Ben. Stand before Zod. Now, kneel before Zod. Brilliant. Absolute legend.
Classic.
I used to know a guy called Neil, Ben, and we would always put Zod on lists after his name.
Oh, so they kneel before Zod.
Exactly, very good. See?
Very good.
Not a good
very
joke.
Good.
Benjamin. But, yeah, it's a good...
That's why we don't do them on the podcast.
No, there's no more jokes on the podcast. The Donner Cut is a good film. I would argue it's better than Superman 2, the original Superman 2. It has Marlon Brando in it instead of Superman's mother. And, he's doing the crap delivery like, Kal-El, why have you given up your powers, you absolute fuckhead? You've had one sex with this lady and you want to give up your powers? And Superman's like, yeah, I do, yeah. Superman is so petty in this, Ben. He gives up his powers, goes and gets beaten up by a bully.
Yeah.
Sees the news and goes, oh, I shouldn't have given up my powers. Goes back and says, remember that whole dramatic thing where if I give up my powers, that's it, it's all over. Can that be undone? And his dad's like, yes.
You fuck.
I told you shouldn't have done this, you absolute fuckhead. And then he gets his powers back and he goes and he beats up the baddies. And then he goes and beats up the bully. He's Superman. He should be above that.
I can't remember where I saw it, but there was a sketch on the internet once where, the way he has the amnesia kiss?
Yes.
And he says, what if Superman went back to that bully and just gave him a big old shift?
A big old
make him forget everything.
Kiss. So that's the thing, Ben. The amnesia kiss isn't in the Donner Cut.
Yeah, so it's removed because it's up there with cellophane S's.
Exactly. That is the major difference. Is Richard Donner wrote this as a Superman fan and he had a better idea, and maybe not a better idea, but he had a closer idea to what we would consider now to be Superman's powers. He's flying about, he's super strong, he's doing breath, he's doing lasers. He has at various times or not telekinesis, which is a weird one.
Look, best give it to him. That's a real early Superman thing where it was pretty much power of the week.
Yeah.
Whatever you needed. It's like, oh, Superman, your blood type conforms to every human type. Oh, you're a super donor. Great.
Yeah, but he can't throw sticky clothes at people. He can't mind wipe a lady with a kiss.
Because that has some
very dodgy
connotations.
Having said that, Miss Tessmacher saves him in Superman 1 by taking the kryptonite chain off his neck.
Yeah.
And she gives him a big kiss. And he said, why did you give me a big kiss before you saved me? And she said, because I didn't think you would have let me afterwards. And like, yeah, because that's sexual assault, Miss Tessmacher.
Because Miss Tessmacher, that's not okay.
That's not okay. You're a bad bloke. Now, you are one of the baddies.
So, I mean, in character for you.
So Gene Hackman also refused to come back, Ben, for the Lester version.
Well, it's because he's a man of scruples and a bit of background.
He seems to be a big fan of Dickie D. So they had to cobble together. I can't
defend anyone anymore, Michael. No. I can't espouse the virtues of any actors because I'm just so afraid that we're going to have to prune the episode.
Yeah, what if they turn out to be bad blokes? But Ben, yeah, it's good. The Donner Cut's good. But regardless of whether you watch the original Superman by Dickie D and the Donner cut, or watch them all. Watch all three of them because it's a fascinating thing. It's a fascinating thing to watch. Watching the Lester cut, Ben, there are fascinating moments where, let's say, a wall explodes in the Daily Planet and the baddies come in.
Yeah.
And moments before the baddies came in, everyone was standing around. The baddies bust in through the wall.
Yeah.
Everyone's standing around in the same spot wearing the same clothes, but is clearly 2 or 3 years older.
I'm with you.
It's just bonkers. And then you watch the Donner cut and it all makes sense. Very interesting. Very, very interesting experiment in the history of cinema. But, Ben.
Yeah.
What we're saying is, it's the birth of the modern comic book film. And old Dickie D, may he rest in peace, not only directed both of those, was also, Ben, the producer of your favourite film, X-Men from 2000.
Get out of town!
Benjamin, he basically single-handedly created comic book films.
We owe so much to Dickie D.
For good or for ill. Benjamin, the other thing is, Superman's probably what Richard Donner's most remembered for. Did you know he also made The Omen?
He made The Omen, Michael!
Ben, the father of the modern horror film.
Yeah, and he also made the bloody Goonies, Michael.
The Goonies, Ben!
This man made everything.
The father of the modern what are those kids doing in that underground cave film.
This man is cinema.
He is cinema, Ben.
He single-handedly wrote the parental neglect genre.
And then Superman getting sexually assaulted. Anyway, Ben, look, that's probably enough for 1 week, I would say.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us. What did you think of all the stuff we reviewed this week? What are your thoughts on the Black Widow film? What did you think of Loki episode 5? Are you excited for the conclusion? What's your favourite Richard Donner movie? Because he wrote all of them.
Wrote all the best ones. The Goonies is my favourite, if you're wondering.
You can get in touch with us in a couple of different ways, ladies and gentlemen. We're on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMRABEAG.com.
Means tiny room in Irish.
We are on Instagram at Sure Look, Sure Listen Podcast.
Means sure look, sure listen in English.
You can find us on Twitter at ListenSure. And
yes,
and all of those, Michael, pale in comparison to getting up on that Discord,
Hop
baby.
up on that Discord, Ben. There's more people every week. We're starting to build a nice little community.
A little community. Get up on there, have a chat with us, suggest things. If you haven't had enough of us this week, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the release of our second podcast, Collecting Issues, the bi-weekly comic book club, which will be out this very Wednesday.
Oh, shit, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Featuring Black Widow, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Most Wanted.
Oh, God, I haven't read that.
So Michael's going to get on that.
Oh, God.
Or if you don't want any kind of book club stuff, you can join us in a week's time where we'll be taking a look at Netflix horror experiment, bloody Fear Street.
Fear Street, bloody Fear Street.
And meta horror in the 2020s.
Oh, is that what we're going to do?
Well, we'll go from 2010 onwards to the meta horror genre.
Well, the meta horror, Ben, arguably started with Scream.
Well, getting by on your 80s tropes.
Ha!
We're going to call it.
Alrighty then, that sounds like a good episode.
Alrighty. So we're going to do that episode next week. Is it going to be a horror extravaganza?
Oh.
Okay, bye-bye.
Alright, okay, see you then. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Superman!
That was awful.
It was brilliant.